Hello, legends. This is Katelyn Pavey from the movie I Can, and with me is my husband, Kevin. I just want to thank all of you guys for coming out and supporting this film, supporting this movie, and just having a great team bonding experience together. I just want to give a huge shout out to Coach O for letting this night happen.
So, Katelyn, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions. How do you know Coach O?
So, I met Coach O when I was about 13 years old. I went to a college showcase camp, and he was there. And he also umpired a few of my travel games when I was growing up. So, I knew him through the game of softball. What an amazing coach you have, but what an even better person he is. I just want to thank you, Coach O, for being a part of my softball career.
So tell me a little bit about your story and the movie.
So the movie I Can, one, it's obviously a softball movie, but two, it's a redemption story. So as you can see, I was born with one arm. Doctors called it phocomelia, which just basically means my arm didn't fully develop in the womb, so it left me with this small hand and 2 digits. Well, I was conceived out of wedlock, and what that means is my parents weren't married. My mom had multiple ultrasounds, and nothing detected that I had one arm. She was even at high-risk pregnancy, and she was going to lose me, and they still didn't even know that I had one arm. So she was bedridden until I was born. So when I came out, it was a shock to everybody. It was a shock not only to the doctors, but to my parents as well. I was born at a university hospital, which means there was a bunch of doctors coming in and students learning and wanting to become doctors. So immediately when I was born, I was rushed out of the room. My mom gave me a kiss on the cheek, and I was rushed out of the room. Well, at the time, the doctor came out and got my dad from the hallway, and she said, "I want to prepare you for what you're about to see." And my dad was like, "What do you mean? Like, is she breathing? Is her heart working? Is her brain working?" "Well, yeah." "And so then what's wrong?" And then the doctor said, "Well, look at her." And my dad calls my arm a little chicken wing. He said it was flapping at him, and he said, "Okay." And the doctor, from the moment I was born, already doubted me. She said, she's born with one arm. Things are going to be hard. Kids are going to make fun of her. I don't know how she's going to, adapt to society. And my grandma, my dad's mom, she told my dad, God doesn't make mistakes. God does not make mistakes in the things that he does and the things that he creates. And my dad took that advice and ran with it. He said, "Okay, we can do this."
When did you start playing softball?
I started playing softball when I was 3 years old, and my dad was my first t-ball coach. He actually went to Walmart and bought a Velcro glove, and he was tossing with me, just working on my hand-eye coordination, and then from there, I just developed different skills and learning how to adapt to the sport, because having one arm, it's kind of a challenge. Like, how am I going to catch and how am I going to throw with the same hand? So I have my glove here, and a lot of people ask me how I do that. Well, the first thing that I did when I was younger was I had my glove, I would throw it on the ground after I caught the ball, step on it, pick up the ball, and throw it. Well, we all know that's way too slow to play competitively. So I have what's called a glove transfer, so where when I catch the ball, I tuck my glove under my small arm, take my hand out, grab the ball, and throw it. I was recorded 0.2 seconds slower than someone with 2 arms, and my arm strength makes up for the time lost.
When did you decide you wanted to play college ball?
So whenever I got my skills at the level where I thought I could play competitively, I started playing travel ball. I started playing travel ball when I was 8 years old. I actually was a pitcher, first baseman, and then getting a little bit older, when I was around 10, is whenever I told my dad, "Hey, I really like this, I think I'm really good at it, and I want to play at the next level."
What kind of obstacles did you face?
So I was playing really competitively, and I was getting on some good teams. I would always have stares, I would always have comments from coaches, from opposing fans. It wasn't necessarily the people I was playing against. it was the coaches, and it was the adults. Coaches would tell their players to scoot in, she can't hit, or she can't throw. Well, some coaches, when I was up to bat, would even move the third baseman in so close I could literally give her a high five from the batter's box. So they totally disrespected the way that I played. So when I was 10 and I got on that good travel team, I was starting right field, and I was playing every game, and I thought everything was going great. Until one day I got a phone call from my coach, and she said, "Hey, I need you to come to my house, you and your parents. I have something to tell you." She said, "Well, I'm going to have to ask you to leave my team." I was like, "What? Why?" She said, "Well, I don't like drama on my team, and their parents complaining that a girl with one arm is starting over their daughter with two, and they just don't understand that, and they don't understand why you're out there playing." So being the person that I was and how I was raised, I was taught to turn the other cheek, just like Jesus did. And so, we turned the other cheek and we left. Did it hurt? Yeah. But it also fueled my fire to get better and to prove to those people that I deserve to be out there and I deserve to play the sport. And it wasn't always just travel ball coaches. It was even college coaches. I would go to these showcase camps and showcase my talents in front of all these coaches from different schools. And I would have so many people come up to me and say, "Hey, you have great fundamentals. Like, I would love to have you on my team. You're a great player." But, there was always a but. But I don't know how to coach a girl with one arm. Or I don't know how my players would react to having a girl with one arm. So even at the college level, I was getting told no. I was already getting doubted. They saw that I had talent, but they wouldn't even give me a chance.
So tell me about your senior year of high school.
Well, my senior year of high school, my goals were to sign to play college softball. I wanted to hit my very first home run. I wanted to be an all-conference player. I wanted to be an all-state player. And to do that, like I said, I had to work extra hard. I had to work harder than someone with two arms just to get to that point, just to get to that level where I wanted to be. Well, I'm happy to say that my senior year, I signed to play college softball, full ride scholarship for Cincinnati Christian University. I played for my coach, Coach Corey Gardner. He was one coach that never doubted me. One coach that didn't tell me no. He said, "I don't care if you have one arm, no arms. If you can play ball, you can play ball." And for him to believe in me that much, I wanted to play for someone like that. So I went, signed to play at CCU. I hit my very first home run. I was MVP of my conference and all-conference player. And I was the first female or male out of my high school to be an all-state player in any sport. And I was the first limb-different athlete, meaning that I have, different limbs, to play in the North versus South Indiana All-Star game. So I reached all my goals in high school.
So what happened to college?
So signing for CCU, I go my freshman year of college, working really, really hard in the fall as a freshman, trying to earn that starting position. And it was a scrimmage game right before my first official collegiate game. And coach came up to me and a few other of my teammates and said, "You guys have been working very hard, and I think you deserve your first at-bat." So I get up there and I slap the ball right to the shortstop. She makes a great play, and everything I do is 100%. So I was bound and determined to beat that ball out at first. Well, I was running down first base, and I kind of did like a lunge to meet the bag, and my foot landed on the top of the bag, but my body went forward, and I hit the ground, and all I heard was pop, 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 pop. Well, instantly in my head, I knew something was wrong. And I looked down, and my kneecap was kind of pointed that way. And I stood up, and the first thing I told coach was like, "Man, that was an awful hit. Can I have a retry?" And he said, "Well, if you can walk from here to home, you can." I took one step, and my leg gave out on me. Well, I ended up tearing my ACL, I tore my meniscus, and I sprained all the ligaments around my knee right before I even got to play in my first college game. In my freshman season, was done. The doctor told me it'd be a 9-month recovery. But I love softball so much I wanted to get back at it, and I told him I'd be back in 5. And he said there's no way. With the type of injury that you have, it's going to take a lot of time to recover. Well, I recovered in 4.5 months. And so I was back playing softball the next year, and then something else happened. Another thing of adversity came my way when my school, Kevin and I both went to the same school, got an email saying the school was being shut down the next year. So we had what this time was like October. So we had from October to December to figure out where we were going and if I was even going to play softball again. Well, I ended up going to Midway University in Kentucky, and I played for about 20 games, having the best season of my life. And then COVID happened, and it shut everything down. So then I had to go home. Well, my coach from CCU, Coach Gardner, went to Kentucky Christian University, and I found out he got that job, and I wanted to play for him again. So I followed him to KCU, and I finished my softball career there. I ended up graduating with my bachelor's in business and my master's in Christian leadership. And while I was there, I also became an All-American softball player.
What made you fall in love with softball?
So the reason why I chose softball, one, I felt like it was a sport that I was good at and I felt the most confident at. I played other sports like basketball, volleyball, flag football, but softball was different. Softball presented me with adversity. Softball is a game of failure. And I like that because it's just like life. In life, you're going to fail. And it's okay to fail. And in softball, you're going to be faced with that failure. And I liked how it presented me with obstacles to overcome. I liked overcoming those obstacles and finding ways to overcome those obstacles, finding ways to get better each and every day. And that's how I felt like I was the most successful. So that's why I love softball so much.
So tell me about the movie.
So all of these life events that I just told you, the things that happened to me are based on true events, and it's in the movie. The movie I Can is a story of softball, but it's a story of redemption. For the longest time, my dad struggled thinking that his past sins caused me to be born with one arm. My grandma told my dad, God doesn't make mistakes. God knows exactly what he's doing. So my church, First Capital Christian Church in Corydon, Indiana, is located on a dead-end street in a tiny, tiny town, and it's a very poor town. And we make movies. That's the big surprising thing. So my pastor, Tyler, which is also director of the movie, does Bible study with my dad, and my dad helps him write sermons all the time. So he kind of knew a little bit about my dad's story. And so one day he came up to my dad and said, "Hey, can I make a movie about you and your family, about your story?" And my dad said, "No." And he's like, "Why?" And my dad said, all my past sins are going to be up on that screen, and everybody's going to see that, and I just don't think that we should do that. And he said, "But if you can help one person, if you can help one person be inspired, or if you can help one person find and follow Jesus, would you do it?" And my dad said, "Absolutely, I would do it." So my dad was set on that. My dad wanted to do it, but they had to ask me. So Tyler came up and asked me one Sunday, and he said, "Hey, can I make a movie about you?" And I said, "No." And I denied Tyler 3 times. I said no. And I said no personally because I didn't think I had a story to share. And I didn't want to be seen as sitting on a pedestal. I thought, there's other people that had stories to share, and, their story to be told, and why me? Just because I have one arm and play softball doesn't make me any different than anybody else. But he posed the question to me, too. He said, if I can inspire one person, or if I can help lead one person to Christ, would you do it? And absolutely, I would do it. So this is why the movie was made. The movie is actually set in a high school setting, just to flow through a movie script.
So Katelyn was in the movie, and she's in the movie quite a bit, but she might be the first person to play the stunt double for the person who's playing herself. Because for the movie, we had to make a cast of Katelyn's arm, and then somebody made a prosthetic. Their names are Amputee Blade Runners, and they did really, really good work. And what we had to do was basically ace bandage her arm, her name is Danner, behind her back, and then ace bandage the fake arm to her elbow to simulate the arm. So she couldn't get in the box and do what she needed to do softball-wise.
It was literally a rubber arm that looked just like this. My great uncle is an artist, and he painted the skin to look just like mine. And it's kind of creepy. We have like 4 of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy, but it was really cool. So I play all the softball scenes. So anytime you see me in the outfield playing or hitting, that's me.
What are some things that you did when you got discouraged on and off the field?
So when I got discouraged, I had to step back and remind myself why. Why was I playing the game? Why did I love the sport of softball? And I also had to remember the goals and what goals I still needed to accomplish and still wanted to accomplish and how I was going to do that. And I would just go home and practice. And I would just practice to get better. You can either get better or you can give up. And I wanted to get better, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it.
What accomplishments are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of graduating college, being a student before athlete. 1, because I was the first on my mom's side to go to college and to graduate from college. And then as my softball accomplishment, my favorite one and my most accomplished one was becoming an All-American softball player.
Did you ever think about quitting the game?
I didn't necessarily think about quitting softball, but when I did tear my ACL, I thought my entire world was crashing. Tearing my ACL made me realize that all my focus was on softball. And I was just completely focused on that and nothing else. When I got the news, I was, 1, super depressed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't even want to leave my dorm room. I didn't want to do anything because I thought my whole identity was in the game of softball. And my grandma, the same grandma that told me God doesn't make mistakes, told me that, God has a reason and a plan for everything. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Well, I did not want to believe that at first. Like I said, my sole identity was in softball. And I just questioned God constantly. Why? Why did bad things happen to good people? Why now when I worked so hard to overcome all the doubt and all the haters and everybody who told me I would never get to this level of playing college softball, and now it's all being taken away from me? Why? And, my grandma was right. God has a reason for everything, and sometimes we may not know that reason, but in that moment of doubt and that moment of questioning and the things that you go through and the things that you struggle with and how you overcome that is always a lesson to be learned through that. And with me tearing my ACL, it made me realize that I was losing sight of God. I lost sight of the one who gave me the talents and gave me the abilities to play softball. Without him and without him blessing me with that, I wouldn't be able to be here and be able to play college softball. And so it really changed my whole perspective and my whole outcome of how I play the game. After I recovered from my ACL, I started playing for him. I started using my talents and my gifts to glorify him and to help inspire people and help to show people through my actions and through my words on the field who he was. And so that was a real thing that kind of opened my eyes and a lesson to be learned for me.
What did you do to block out all of the noise and just play softball?
I learned from going to camps and from playing college softball that softball is way more mental than it is physical. And what I did and what I did throughout, college and the start of college was mental conditioning, mental conditioning practice, and I transfer that over until how I played. So before I even played the game, the night before I would do mental conditioning and imagining myself up to bat. I would imagine myself getting hits. I would imagine myself getting on base. I would imagine myself scoring. Or if I was in the outfield, I would imagine myself making plays. And I would imagine myself throwing someone out at home. That's mental imagery. If you believe that you can do something, you can. And it makes your brain think that you've already done it before. So when you go into a game, you're already prepared to do those big moments. The other thing that I did was just stop, take in the moment, no matter how big or how small it was, and take a deep breath. And what that does is it calms your entire body, it calms your nerves, it makes you focus. It makes you focus on the task at hand and what goal that you need to accomplish and what you need to do. It gives you that focus for big moments, and it gives you that focus to just be involved in the game. And the other thing you have to do is just have fun, because softball is fun. And you have to have confidence in yourself and confidence in the abilities that you have and the confidence in the abilities that God has given you. You know, life is not going to be easy. Softball is not going to be easy. But like I said, what I learned from playing and giving my talents back to God was, you know, I already have the victory. In John 16:33 it says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world." And what that means is Jesus already defeated everything. Jesus died for us, for our sins. Everything is taken care of. We have the victory because he did that. So no matter, you know, the wins, no matter the losses in the game of softball, you already have the victory because you have Jesus and that he died for you. So that's my prayer for you. Again, thank you, Coach O, for letting this night happen. I hope you guys have a great night together, have a great team bonding experience, and most of all, I hope you enjoyed the movie. If you have any more questions or any advice that you want, just ask Coach O and he can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to share. Have a good night, and I hope you enjoy the film.